So Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Mthetwa has released a report following a forensic investigation into claims of mismanagement of the 300 million rand COVID-19 relief scheme. The investigation has found wrongdoing, maladministration and mismanagement. 5 former NAC council members have been implicated for accepting work as adjudicators and getting paid for it. In fact, 3 of them are former NAC members. 2 of them, we're told, are still with the council itself. Let's bring in Advocate Makhosi Nkosi. He's a National Arts Council member. He's also, I think, with the Human Resources Committee at the NAC. He joins us now live from Newcastle. And Advocate, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for making time. I wonder if we can start with the burning issue, I imagine, on many people's minds. Why did it take a forensic investigation initiated by government in particular for these things to be found and made public when, frankly, artists themselves had been calling for transparency for weeks, if not longer?
Good morning, Ayanda and the viewers at home. It did not take the government for the investigation to be instituted. After having received the complaints from the minister as they were directed to the minister by the artist, we then, as the NAC, took it upon ourselves and also upon the advice of the minister as well to institute the investigation. Therefore, this was done at our own instance as the NAC.
Are you trying to say that if artists and the minister hadn't given what you're calling advice, you would have gone ahead with this investigation anyway? No,
remember that when complaints were received, we were in the middle. In fact, remember, okay, let me start by putting it this way. We are the new council. But having said so, we accept the responsibility of the previous council in terms of governing the institution. So when we started in January, already the program was at its end. We were about to implement. And then we discovered that there were problems, particularly of the budget having been over an allocation of budget. And then we started looking into the issues, and then we started engaging with the artists. That is when the problem started, because remember, there were about 50% over allocation in the budget. And we couldn't sit back and allow people who have been approved for funding not being funded. And then we decided, let's engage the artists and let us see where can we help that everybody who has been approved by us, not the fault of the artist, can be assisted and be funded in accordance with the approvals that have been made. But we then realized that the budget has been exceeded by more than 50%. And then out of those engagement with the artist, we came to some sort of an agreement. But during that time of the engagement, artists became very much disillusioned. And then that's when they started raising these complaints, which then we escalated to the minister. And of course, we had already realized that there were problems. And we're going to, in any event, we're going to do some investigation. But now we are happy that the investigation has been done. It has been completed. It has come up with some findings, which findings we have accepted as the council, and we are implementing the findings of the forensic investigation as we speak.
Advocate Nkosi, with respect, I think many artists will push back quite strongly against the version of events as you put them. The picture you're trying to paint is that the NAC has always been open to interrogation and has always been engaged happily with the artists. Many artists themselves, who we've spoken to countless of times, have mentioned instances that even some NAC members have agreed had happened, where there was simply no communication taking place between the two parties. I asked my first question because the NAC is singing a very different tone now, almost accepting that maladministration had always taken place, that there were issues, as you put them this morning, when that wasn't the tone initially when this issue came into the public domain.
No, it is not correct that there has been no communication.
There were instances where artists and the NAC were not at the same table. You have to concede that to be a fact.
It depends what you mean by us not being at the same table. We always had an ear for the artists. You remember there was even a sit-in at the NAC offices. We dispatched some of our council members to go and meet with the artists. But remember now, at that stage, the emotions were very high on the side of the artists. So the engagement would not have been pleasant in any way. But we as the NAC had always had our door open, and we were always constantly engaging with the artists. Of course, there were areas where we could not agree. For instance, areas where the artist demanded us to give the information regarding specific details of the people that were approved and the amounts that were approved, and we felt in terms of the law we could not do that. I think that is where there were areas of serious contestation. Otherwise, in terms of us agreeing to look at the complaints that were raised, we are always open and accepting that.
For instance, one of the issues the archers had raised countless amounts of time is there are people within the NAC who are beneficiaries of this fund, and they shouldn't be because it's against the NAC Act itself. The minister, through this investigation, has found that to be true. And the question, I guess, becomes, when the archers were raising this without this kind of ministerial involvement, how is it that no one in the council itself could pick something like that up?
I think, let me correct you there as well. The minister has made it clear that the council members that he says are implicated are not implicated as a result of them having been funded through this program. They are implicated because they participated in the review, using the common, in the review and the evaluation of the applications. But the ones that you're talking about, those that the artists were very much vocal about, they related to members, currently serving members, whose organizations were funded by the NAC, particularly the PESP program. But remember, when they were funded, they were not, at that stage, they were not yet members of the NAC. They were appointed on the 1st of January, and the application reviews were finalized on the 30th of December 2020, and they were only appointed from the 1st of January 2021. The state law advisors have looked into this issue, and they have confirmed that there has been no conflict of interest. Those members that have benefited through funding were correctly, their applications were properly reviewed, and they were correctly funded. They did not participate in any way in the review of these applications and in the approval of the applications. Let's distinguish the two issues.
The point being is that, right, apologies to interrupt you there. The point being is that the people who are making the decisions about where the money should go shouldn't have been making the decisions about that particular process. In fact, there were 5 of them in total. 2 of them are still members.
Yes, but the issue at the beginning of the year regarding the conflict of interest, it refers specifically to current councillors whose organizations were funded, but those councillors did not in any way whatsoever participated in the review of the applications and in the approvals of the applications at all. That has been confirmed by this report as well, the one that we are talking about. The councillors that are implicated, 2 of them are no longer, I think 3 of them are no longer part of the council, 2 of them are part of the council, but they did not participate in a way of them being funded. The report says they participated, they benefited in a way that they did work that councillors are prohibited by the Act from doing. Then that is how they benefited, not because they were funded.
All right. It might come back down to semantics around the behavior, where the money specifically went. The point is the way the process had unfolded was actually against the NAC Act, which in part is what the artists have always been saying. The CEO and the CFO have been suspended pending this investigation. What happens to their jobs next?
Right. They were put on precautionary suspension so that we could conduct the investigation, and the investigation has been completed now. And in terms of the investigation, there are management, there's management that has been implicated. There's also former council members that have been implicated and current council members. The process that is going to unfold now going forward, the minister will deal with those issues that relate to councillors that are implicated. We as the NAC are going to be dealing with those matters where we have to take corrective actions, including disciplinary steps and recovery of the funds where we have to do pertaining to staff and management.
When can we expect that process to reach its conclusion?
Perhaps it will be easy for me to indicate that hopefully by the end of this week we would have appointed the company that will be doing the initiation, that is the prosecution of those that are implicated, and we would also have appointed a company or a firm that would provide us with an independent chairperson who would be chairing these proceedings. By next week or so, we expect those that would have appointed to have completed the charges and having served them upon those that are implicated. Then it is difficult then to say when will the process be finalized. Because remember, those that are charged have got the right to be defended, they've got the right to ask for various other information. Depending on their approach, it may not be easy for us to tell you when will that be finalized. But all that we can tell you is that we are committed to expedite these matters within the framework of the law, and we want them to be finalized as soon as possible.
Of course, at the heart of all of this, Advocate, is the artists themselves and their plight. Money has already been paid, in some instances irregularly, where people received even more than, I think, what they had applied for. Something along those lines is what the report has outlined. Some of that money can't be recouped. I think it was the chair of the NAC yesterday who said it's not even fair sometimes to ask for the money back because some of those artists, this issue is not a fault of their making. How do we deal with the context where there had been an over-allocation of funds, promises were made, some of those funds have already been paid, and there are still some artists left out in the cold to date as you and I speak? How do you remedy that situation?
Right, Ayanda, again, to put it in context, there are no artists that have been left out in the cold. When we came in, there were 1,374 artists that had been approved. But the budget could only accommodate 613. So the 761 that were approved could not be funded based on the guiding figure that was used at that time. And then we said, no, it can't be fair that people would be approved by us. And then again, we turn around and tell them that there is no budget when they did not approve themselves. So what we then did, we engaged with the artists to revise the guiding figure, that is to bring it down so that we could accommodate each and every artist that had been approved. I would say 99% of the artists agreed to that. And as we speak today, 96% of them have been paid. And we are only left with 4%. And with that 4%, we are receiving the reports, the evaluation reports, insofar as the completion of the programs are concerned, and then we are paying them. But let me just also speak on this one. It does not mean that those people that were irregularly approved received that money and went to buy whatever they wanted to buy with that money. The fact of the matter is they had submitted applications, but their applications were not compliant. For instance, there were documents missing, and those applications should have been disqualified at that stage when they were being checked, but they were not. They were instead allowed to get to the stage of them being reviewed. Not only being reviewed, they were also approved.
All right.
And then we are saying that then deprived well-deserving applicants who had worked diligently on the applications to get an opportunity to be funded, because now people who did not meet the requirements were funded. But with those people not meeting the requirements, there were projects that were there. And remember, when we give people money, we don't just give them money, they must submit reports.
All right.
We also have what we call provincial representatives. They go out there to inspect the projects where it is necessary. But we don't just pay the money and we forget about it.
Got you.
So as much as people were paid irregularly, there were projects that were there, jobs were created, there were jobs that were retained. it was not money that was wasted. It was not money in vain. It was not a fruitless expenditure on the part. But we maintain that the procedures were not correctly followed.
All right. I still have a whole host of questions. Hopefully, you'll be free to engage us at the next available time. But for now, let me thank you for your indulgence. Really do appreciate you letting us in on what you know. Advocate Makhosi Nkosi is the National Arts Council board member. He's also with the Human Resources Committee at the NAC. Once again, thanks very much indeed.